I meet my friend after my presentation, and the first words out of my mouth as I walk down the stage are, "Hey, how was I up there? Was the stuttering clearly visible and audible? And oh, I forgot one of the lines." It's 2020. I meet my favorite cousin at a party, and one of the first few words out of my mouth are the shoes terribly contrasting with the dress? It's 2021. I meet my friends at the school after ages, because of COVID obviously, and one of the first questions I have is about their experiences with procrastination. On receiving a similar and relatable answer from all of these people above, I have a sigh of relief, a whim of satisfaction. Hi everyone, I'm Srishti Jaisinghani, and I'm a high schooler who has seen this validation syndrome often. I have seen people around me go through it unknowingly and randomly. I'm not joking. Try it. Rewind your day and look for the questions about yourself that you had somebody else answer to, or answered one of those for your friends. Sometimes we even subconsciously usher a conversation into a direction in order to achieve some kind of external gratification. I have been there, right at your place, when it hits me in the center that there is a pattern about how all the wanted external opinions have a considerable impact on myself. I might have realized this when I was in a classroom and my friend randomly asks about her perfectly well costume. Is that it? Negative is the answer. This goes beyond her. It's you and me and you. We're all the ones who seek the sugar. From how did I cook to how do I look? From number of comments in the book to the like button on the gram, and from many more to even more are our subconscious needs of reassurance. Many times, these questions turn from approval to reapproval to reapproval, and we're all subconsciously demanding the checking, assuring, reassuring, acceptability constantly. And one day at a time, we seek it. We seek it and it gives us a sigh of relief. We all have our own mysterious ways of seeking it, but we all do look for that sense of confirmation. Yes, I wondered the same at this point what you must be wondering. What is it that drives us to find solace in being validated by someone else? How do these little feelings of being validated by someone else bloom inside our mind? And why do these unknown desires on being fulfilled bring us a sense of calm? According to a few meaningful conversations and some research, I can say that there are 3 reasons that can be accounted for this entire thing going on inside of us. The first one is requirement of basic confirmation. Now we seek confirmation in the things we do so as to understand if they're within the boundaries of the society, which more clearly means if they are understandable to the people around us. Now when we work towards something, we employ our greatest efforts to a cause, we want the people around us to understand our emotions, the hard work and the efforts we put in. So this requirement of basic confirmation is what drives us to find similarities. We understand this better as we understand the deeper root of validation, that is, managing your anxiety. Now, as you get off what the environment is like out there, you gain basic knowledge of how people perceive your efforts, your thinking, and everything. You go on to contemplate it with what goes on inside of you. This is the stage where your desire to achieve a similar environment as outside increases in full velocity to reach its peak. This is where you make changes to yourself. You do this to manage your emotions. The emotions that rise inside of you when you feel different, or we can say out of the place. So we can also call this stage adaptations in the playing field. Now, we understand all of this better as we move to the deepest root of seeking validation. That is seeking belongingness. We're all social beings, and social interaction is embedded in our nature. A need for affiliation, a need for connection is something which we can say is inbuilt in human beings. Here I have a little diagram called as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, proposed by Abraham Maslow in his 1943 paper called A Theory of Human Motivation. As you can see, love along with belongingness forms one of the 5 factors to human motivation as per Maslow's observations of humans' innate curiosity. Now, these 3 reasons could be common to anybody generally seeking validation, but they might not define the intensity one seeks it in. So what is it that defines that? There could be a 4th personal reason for it. I think my personal reason associated with this entire phenomena is my experience with being the fat girl. I have been an overweighted child since I was about 3 years old, and it brought an experience which affected me in many ways. Kids around me used hurting names. Elders were telling me ways to reduce as I grew up. What I felt was out of the place. I didn't feel like I belonged. From scripted lives to wholehearted lies, there were so many expectations, and they haunted me. From every nickel of burger and fries to every time she failed after she tried, expectations daunted me. From the ideal waist size to the perfect face and the perfect mind is what the script made me dream of, to realizing it wasn't a face-off. However, that 10-year-old little girl grew up because of her parents and was able to leave that negative part behind herself because of her parents who loved her unconditionally. However, it had to have an imprint somewhere. And through the course of this entire research, I think it could be my 4th reason, my personal reason associated with me seeking validation. Similarly, anyone or everyone could have a similar or a completely different personal reason. Now, as I've said, belongingness is important to us, and we've established it. But there is a reason I named it the deepest root of validation. Now, according to my personal belief, we're all really navigating our paths throughout our lives to the places we really belong. But we're so desperate for this destination that we don't focus on navigating this path. Rather, we start to make it up. And this is what leads us to find similarities with other people. This is what drives us to have other people agreeing with us. Now that we understand all the reasons that could be associated with seeking validation, let us answer the big question. Reach to the disclaimer. Is it okay to seek validation? So, a clear and a straightforward answer, as you might or might not have expected, is yes, it is okay, but it gets subjective. Let us first contemplate this yes. So, as we've already established that belonging is a fundamental human need hardwired into our DNA, as states an article by Harvard Business Review. And this kind of belongingness is brought to us by validation. Further, the article also states that 40% of people who feel isolated at work have shown lower organizational engagement and commitment, which leads me to another justification, that validation has the power to improve one's performance in technical areas. It is also a source of confidence, which is very important and a crucial element for all of us. However, as I said, it gets subjective, which brings me to the most important element of seeking validation, that is, the intensity of validation required. Now, we're not talking about generally seeking information and inquiring about one's opinions or beliefs. What we're talking about is when a person is dependent on an outside source for shreds of motivation. Or if a person needs to ask 100 people and seek validity from each one of them for making any kind of big life decisions, such as choosing a profession or navigating a relationship. Basically, if you have a constant whim of worry keeping you up at the night, then it might not be fine. So what do we need to do? What we need to do here is find the right balance that takes account of others but keeps us in the spotlight. Finally, reaching towards the last stop of this talk, that is the magic stand, where we learn how to find that right balance. However, let's talk about the reality first. The reality is as cliched and overhyped as it is complicated. And why do I say this is because another thing I always say, that is, why do you think cliched things are cliched? It's because they work, and none of us can run away from them. The cliched thing I'm referring to here is the dear old finding yourself. It is very, very important to get back in touch with yourself. It is very, very important to get to know oneself, get to know things about oneself, like, why do I believe in this? Or why do I believe in that? Why do I like this or unlike that? This is what is the reality. However, there are a few techniques that can help us find that balance, which is where we talk about magic. These are basically 3 incantations I have prepared for you guys, not being a specialist, to condition your mind in order to believe what follows. The first one is incendia. We all know this. This is the famous phrase used in many supernatural dramas to ignite flames. What I want you to associate with this is burning away self-doubt and making way for self-worth. So every time you have this anxiety inside your mind, when you want to seek validity and ask 100 people, or a constant whim of worry, this is what I want you to incant and associate with. Next in line, we have Alohomora. Alohomora is the famous spell for opening doors. What I look forward to associate this is about making way for risks. In order to stop seeking unhealthy validation from others, we need to take risks, and we need to bet on ourselves. We need to believe in ourselves, and that is what I want you to associate with this spell. The last and my personal favorite is Expecto Patronum. We're very well acquainted with the defensive spell empowered by one's strongest memory. This is meant for every time you have anxiety relating to validation or any kind of anxiety. What I want you to do when you face some kind of these feelings is relive your strongest memories all over again. When you come back to present, you would have received the validation you needed, because your happiest selves would have reminded you of everything that you already have, your strengths, your abilities, and the best things in your life. All of this sounds very huge. All of this sounds huge and also kind of childish. It does to me as well. But the motive behind all of this is just conditioning your mind. What we need to do is condition our mind in order for it to be beneficial for us, in order for it to bring benefits to us. Which is why I use these magical spells. You can use any of the ways you like. I can say that I use magical spells because I do believe that the real magic lies inside of you, and only you can truly experience it. Because you define your magic, in the first go, it might be a little tragic. But if you keep going, it would have meant. If you don't stop, it would have helped. As in my case, right in front of my face, 2019, 20 and 2021 named, but 2022 and 2023 are not going to be the same. Thank you.